Hello everybody, XPGamesNL here and welcome back to a new Fire Emblem Builder tutorial. Today we're going to insert some custom music into Fire Emblem Game Boy Advanced. I'm going to show you how to install Fire Emblem or midis of a lot of games actually into Fire Emblem Game Boy Advanced. So first of all, the reason I didn't make this video anytime sooner, this tutorial, is because I decided music is a pretty difficult topic. Because Fire Emblem, the Sacred Stones, and all other Fire Emblem Game Boy Advance games, I think even almost every single Game Boy Advance games out there, and also a lot of Nintendo DS games and a lot of older games, they work with midis. Now, what midis are a file format or a format, or basically an instruction. Midis are nothing more than an instruction for the game to play a certain song. So imagine you wanted to build a cake, or to bake a cake. Sorry, not build a cake, bake a cake. Then the midi would be the recipe you need in order to bake the cake, and the ingredients would be the instruments. Now, if we go to this little window right here, to song table, you can see that there's a lot of songs already in Fire Emblem Game Boy Advanced. If we scroll down to a random song, like, I really like Powerful Foe, one of the best background music in the entire game, one of the best battle musics, or best songs in the game, you will see that at the right, you can see where exactly this stuff is all used, which is something to keep in mind. And there's all kinds of other information, which we will get to in a bit. But if I open this window, this looks really spooky, but we'll get to this in a bit. So as you can see, there's multiple tracks up here, and these are basically the blueprints. These are the ingredients that you need to insert. Or rather, this is the blueprint of how the song is played. Now, the MIDI file includes a tempo, like you can see here. It's really small, but it says like tempo. The voice is the instrument that plays it, and you can see like the volume and stuff like that. Basically, what we do is, in Fire Emblem Game Boy Advanced, we give a recipe to the ROM. The ROM has the ingredients, which are the instruments, and what the ROM will do then is bake the cake for you at the time it needs to bake the cake. So, for an example, if I go to, let's say, the song Powerful Foe again, here it is. What will happen is, whenever you fight like Tirado in chapter 8 of the Sacred Stones, in the final chapter before the route split, what will happen is the game will say, okay, I'm going to play the song Powerful Foe. It gets the MIDI from the memory of the ROM, and it will start playing the song by executing the instruments. And what will happen then is the game will basically say, you know, I'm going to bake that cake for you at the moment you need it. Which means that normally games store their music, they store it in some, nowadays, not really, some games do not compress their music, but back in the day when a Game Boy Advanced game could be up to max 32 gigabytes, or 32 megabytes even, which is a lot smaller than most games nowadays, that little, that music form of compression in midis and including instruments instead of recording songs, compiling those songs, or reducing the file size of those songs, that was a thing that was pretty hard to do. So this is basically a way in which the songs in the game are compromised, or like, how'd you say that? I forgot the word, but the file size is made a lot smaller. So now you know that this game does not work with MP3s or .wav files, or even the very hip FLAC files, which is the closest you can get to studio quality music. There's actually none of that here. There is only, and I repeat, there is only MIDI files, which is important to understand. There are people who have managed to get .whv files into FEBuilder. There's a really tricky procedure for that. I do not know it out of the back of my head, and I also do not recommend using it because it takes up a lot of space. I've been talking around about 5 minutes about midis, but that's important because now you know that you can't just throw every single song into this ROM. Another thing to note is that some midis, you can insert them because the .midi file type is correct and you can just put them in, but when you put them into the songs or in the ROM itself, it will sound awful. The audio quality might be very loud, or the instruments will start randomly playing and going out of tune and out of order, which is definitely not something we want. So if you find a random MIDI on the internet, there are chances that the game will be like, well, I'm not going to make this work properly. This is not the case for every single MIDI out there, but it's definitely a thing you need to consider. With that little theory out of the way, where we talk about the ROM and that it actually receives a recipe from you, and you can insert that recipe into the ROM and it will bake a cake for you, let us get into something that we first of all need to install, or is really handy to install. 2 patches that I definitely recommend installing because it makes your music just a little better. Or actually 3 patches. I'll get the patch window up, and while I do that, I want to tell you guys that yes, there are all kinds of editors out there that allow you to edit or to change MP3 songs into midis. Do not use these, because as a famous hacker, I think it was Smer once said on the boards of FEBuilder, you can make a cake by just cooking with the ingredients, but you cannot revert a cake back into its original ingredients. And that is where the whole cake example from just now came from. So the first patch is actually at the top when you open the patch menu. It's 16 tracks, 12 sounds. This is a very handy patch to have, because this little patch right here allows the ROM to work with up to 16 tracks, which basically allows us to use 16 instruments and 12 notes at the same time. We will just install this real quick. What this allows us to do is, if there's more instruments inside a MIDI, we're able to use those, and some custom-made MIDIs by the community also have stuff like this. So next thing we're going to take a look for is, hey, what's this? All instrument, all high quality MIDI instruments. It's a really large patch. My eye just fell onto this right now. I do not really know if this is a thing to use. We could always try it out. I might experiment with this at a certain point, but for now we're going to just leave this here, because for this tutorial we do want to install this patch as well. This is Drum Fix. What will happen sometimes inside the ROM is, at a certain point you might, instead of hearing a drum sound, hear a loud beep, as if there's just an error. I cannot reproduce the sound because I'm not a computer, but it's a really annoying sound, and if you have a MIDI that has a lot of these beeping issues, the song gets completely ruined. A thing to note here is that the reason this happens is because for some reason the drum cannot hit that certain note. As it says here, fills in the missing notes from MIDIs, blah 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 blah, and this fixes the boops as long as you use the general MIDI drum notes, which shouldn't be a problem for most standard Fire Emblem ROMs. For most standard Fire Emblem midis, even if you export one MIDI from this game to another, because there's a function for that, even then it shouldn't be a problem. This is just a really handy patch to have. It just fixes a lot of issues. Just install this. Believe me, it's going to save your ass later. And finally, before we continue onward to actually doing some stuff with the midis, I wanted to install which patch did I want to install? We had 16 tracks, we had drum. I wanted to install NEMAP. That was what I wanted to do. This is NEMAP. NEMAP allows a lot of extra instruments. By default, the game's instruments for music are not in the order expected for MIDI songs. Therefore, this patch is essential for MIDI formatted music. Makes your life a lot easier when inserting any type of MIDI into the ROM. Believe me, it just works that way. So, now we're going to take a look at how to actually insert a song. So I'm going to open up this window again. And what we want to do is, I already have a idea of a track I really want to insert into this ROM, and that is Clash of Two Virtues from Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon, which is the boss theme that Camus and Michaelis have in that game. It's a really good song, and I always loved it. I used it in some of my hacks as well. I think it was made by Sme as well. We'll take a look at that later, but for now, I want to click data expansion. You could use these empty tracks right here. I wouldn't recommend it. Just expand unless you're really short on space. Whenever you fill in an empty track like this, or extend data or expand data, make sure that you take a look exactly at if the ROM still functions and the music still works. So right now we have this little background music thingy. What we want to do is, we already know that the song is going to be a battle theme. In that case, this setting is okay, because some tracks in the game, like sound effects like this, they require a different type of priority. And priority basically means that at a certain point, there's the possibility that a sound cuts out of the game or something like that. Remember, if you have watched my tutorial on inserting the custom Bulganon animation, I think the reason the sound cut out in that particular animation is because the sound effect was set to like highest background music, which means that that sound effect will overwrite the background music playing in the back. So set this to background music if it's, you know, a battle theme, or if it's a conversation song. If you use map music, set it to high. Then there's mid, high, medium. These are not really used that much, but you can actually go to low and lowest, and those are used for sound effects. If you want to play multiple sound effects at a time, you can also switch them up like this. For now, though, we're going to switch it to highest background music. Then there's the soundroom editor, which we will get to in a bit, because we want to listen to our song. Instrument table editor is not really that interesting. It just shows the amount of instruments that you're able to use. At the moment, there is no thing here. Do not just ignore this for a second. I do not know how to work with this. This little option right here, I'm not going into this now because I just do not know how it works. We do have soundroom editor and song track editor. Now to actually insert a song, we're going back to that scary window from earlier. Oh no, this looks scary. Before we do this, priority and reverb, these are two things you kind of want to take a look at. What we want to do is go to like powerful foe, and we want to copy the values here. This is A and 94. We want to copy those particular values, because it makes the music just sound a little bit better. Now that we write this to ROM, there's no MIDI here. There's space reserved for the MIDI, but there's no tracks. There's still no recipe, even though we reserved a page in our nice little cookbook. To insert a MIDI, there is a music repository, which I will link it to in the description, and I will also link in the comment section, where you can download some songs. There's also the graphics repository, where occasionally music gets posted. There's MIDI sites all over the internet. Be sure to credit them, and yeah, just look for a MIDI and insert it. For now, I'm going with a safe option, because most of the songs inside the music repo, they tend to be .s files, which I'll get to in a bit, but those particular files are really handy to use. Alright, so I'm going to take a look real quick at where exactly that song was at. It should be Fire Emblem, where is it now? Clash of Two Virtues by Sme, it is. And what you will get is this little window asking you what to do. I always tend to set this to NIMAP, Native Instrument Map 2, simply because it will fill in a lot of the blanks for you. So we're going to click on select, and you will see this window run, and boom, now we have a lot of numbers and stuff coming up. there's a lot of info on this screen, but I'm going to make a little more sense once we click on this little thing right here, which is music score. This will open up this little window, and as you can see right here, there is all kinds of instruments with a number behind them, then a name. This is where you can change the instruments inside the ROM, or can assign a new instrument to a track. And a track is all of these little things right here. I'm not going to tinker with this, but you could say, well, I do not like the sound of strings 1 in this particular song, so I'm going to change it to like 40, which is the violin, for an example. You could do that. You can also change the volume here by inserting like a 20, which will raise the volume of all instruments with 20. You can also do pan, which is when you have stereo music, or at least I believe it's has to do with stereo music. In your right ear and left ear, there's a balance in between where you the music is output. You can shift it to the left and to the right. So that means that when you listen to stereo and you hear only music in your right ear for the headphone or in the right speaker, you can switch it to the left by correcting the pan. And tempo is just the speed at which the song plays, which I'm not going to tinker with either. I'm going to close this window. You might just see, and I'm going to notice this real quick, you might just see something like, I do not know if Nemap actually has or Nemap 2 actually has a dummy. I think I saw one. Yep, this is dummy. These are beeps and boops. If you have a song changed to dummy, what will happen is you'll only hear beeps and boops. And that ruins the entire song. So if you see anything listed here as dummy, be sure to change it to something else to listen like, okay, this is a bass line, this is a drum line, this is a main instrument. Now, assigning the right instruments to the right tracks can be quite tricky. You just need to practice a little bit with it. Great, so now we've inserted our MIDI into our ROM. You might have found one on the internet, which is fine. Do note that if you found a random MIDI on the internet, chances are that their volume is like 127. I do sincerely not hope that our ears will get destroyed. In that case, I will lower the background volume for you guys, don't worry. But what I'm going to be taking a look at right now is simply, if you wish to correct the volume, you can do that, of course, here. So make sure to do that if you got a random MIDI from the internet, and make sure to fix all of the little dummies. But what you also can do is you can individually correct the pan for each track, and for each track you can correct the volume. So let's say that the overdriven guitar is really, really loud in comparison to the rest of the song. You can lower the volume on the correction. And you can also lower the volume on the pan. Alright, so actually, now that we've inserted all of this, the priority has gone down, and I forgot exactly what it was 94. That was the reverb. Set that back real quick. It just adds a little extra to the song. Before we actually go and take a look at the rest of the options that you can do with the music, I wanted to take a look at... I actually forgot what I wanted to take a look at. The instrument set. Well, this is not really that interesting. It's just all of the instruments that this song can change into. You can see there's like 127 instruments. You can add your own ones. You'll need to do stuff with WHV, which is tricky. I won't explain this. What did I want to explain? I forgot what I wanted to explain. Oh, right. One more thing before we move on to all these little options right here. I wanted to tell you guys something about importing music. When I open this file up, I won't show my repository, my file system, for obvious reasons. but there is three types or a couple of types of sounds that FEBuilder can import. First, there's the .s file, and the .s file is nothing more than a instrument or just like a MIDI file, but with set instruments. And those .s files are usually used in community-made MIDIs that are already pre-made and pre-tested, so that is cool. You have the standard MIDI files. You can do .whv files, though it works a little less. It's a little harder to import those than MIDIs. And there's musical instrument or instrument files that you can import. Right, so now, oh, there's also the search internet for new resources. If you really run out of stuff, click this button and it will take you to a website where you can find new resources and stuff. Alright, so if you want to export a MIDI that is already inside this game, then you simply can go to a MIDI you would like to export, and this window will just open up a directory window which will allow you to export a MIDI if you wish. And you can just select the repository or the place in your file system where you wish to dump it. SAPI is a tool that allows you to simulate MIDIs. It is not a necessary tool to get this stuff working. It can be quite useful for if you really want to quickly listen to how it sounds in-game. But luckily for us, Fire Emblem Rom Hackers, the developers have actually made a sound room where you can listen to the music. So if you just add all of the songs to the sound room, you won't have to bother with doing all kinds of stuff like that. SAPI can be really useful if you do not want to extend space for your sound room or you cannot do it. I broke the Prophecy of Flames. SAPI doesn't work with the Prophecy of Flames, which is kind of funny. To set SAPI, we're going to quickly go away. You just go to Settings, and what you can do is at a certain point, there is Path 2. There should be an option to set SAPI somewhere in the Settings menu. You can set a path to SAPI. Not really that interesting. Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about when it comes to importing a MIDI. So I hope it's all clear that we know how to insert a MIDI. I hope it's clear that you can assign instruments, like going down here, how you can assign instruments by just going in this window and changing this stuff around, fiddle around a little bit with it. But now the MIDI is in the game, or the song is in the game, and we can actually refer to the song in other places as well. Let's say I wanted to make the chapter theme for, like, chapter 1. I wanted to change that into, let's say I wanted to change the player face background music in, like, I think it was E34? I forgot which one it was. Well, shortcuts, really nice. It's 3E8. Hey, what does this set? It's priority in the song table. This is also where FEBuilder is immediately on spot here. I'm setting a background music, which is a battle or conversation theme, as a map theme, and it has the wrong priority, so it will say, hey, don't do that. I could also just go to the boss editor and instead, you know, just go to boss background music, and I could just set this one to 3E8, and what will happen is O'Neill would have the Clash of Two Virtues boss theme. But since this song is inside the game, that doesn't mean that it's always working and sounding like you want it to sound, or it's working the way you intend. In order to test this, you can go to the sound room, and this is the same window that opens up when you get out of here. When you open up this window and you click on Sound Room Editor, the same window opens up. There's not a lot of stuff to see here. There is, however, all of the songs right here are the songs in the sound room. So you can see the last song in the sound room of standard FE8 is the epilogue song. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shamelessly expand the data here and create a 70th or a 70th song in the ROM. And as you will see, it just basically copies all of the values of this particular song right here. Now, this is basically, oh, it even shows you the position. I just noticed this. It just shows you the column and the position where it will be stored or where it will be at in the sound room. That is just epic. So what will happen is in the sound room, the Valiant, which we will change into the Clash of Two Virtues, will be in the 18th column in the middle left. That is just awesome. So, that aside, now that we have ourselves, now that we've copied this song, the Valiant, and all of the values have been copied, there's a second copy of the original Valiant. That's not what I wanted to do. There's an original copy, or a copy of the original Valiant song in the spot that we just made. In order to change this to the song we want, we're just going to change this to 3E8, and as you can see, there's no name for the song. It's blank. That is because the names right here, like, let's say, you see, like, where's Comrades? It's a great song. Comrades right here is a song that is already in the game. And the title here that you know that it's Comrades, the reason it says Comrades in this little menu is because FEBuilder refers to a song with this thing, the song name, in the soundroom editor. That is basically all there is to that name. That's why there's no name right here, but if we say, well, I'm clicking on it right to ROM, then the name will immediately be applied, which is fine. No worries there. We have a song length. This is not an actual length. If you just insert a MIDI, the MIDI will, in almost every single case, it will loop. And if the MIDI loops, then this is not important at all. This is only important for if a player or a gamer decides to use the random song function in the sound room. And if you use that function, this is the amount of seconds the song will play. Now, let's say a song like, I don't know, what's a fun song? I do not know really know a song out of the back of my head. Let's just say that we're listening to a kind of J-pop song that takes like 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Yeah, if you set a 44 seconds at that point, what will happen is the song will cut out way too quickly before we can even get past the first refrain. So do change this to an appropriate length. You could just change it to like 3 minutes. This is really not a thing you should be worrying about too much. Don't worry about that. This is the display condition. I have no idea what the hell this is about. I think this has to do with some stuff that the Fire Emblem 7 ROM actually has the 2 songs from other FE games that you can only unlock if you connect to Mario Kart for some reason. But that's not important. Just note that this is a thing that you can set, and really not important. And the song name itself is nothing more than just a bit of text. And let's say I wanted to add a new text right here. I could just expand data. It will take a little moment. The Hex Sword? Is that a thing? I did not know that was a thing. Hex Sword? Oh well. Ba-bow. As you can see, right here, I think it might have to do with the custom item tutorial. Right here, what we want to do is, we don't even have to insert this. We could just do source text and just type FE11. And I do not know if I'm writing this correctly. Clash of Two Virtues. I hope I did it right. I think I did it wrong. I don't care. It's just to show that you can set custom... shit, I didn't double click. So now the ROM doesn't know I want this to be assigned. So now the ROM has the name of the song. And I just wanted to show that you can insert your own name for a song. Oh, this little thing right here, if you click on it, it will open up Sappy. It's just another shortcut, but it's kind of useless since I haven't set Sappy for this ROM. Or I think I have in FEBuilder settings, but I just don't want to click on it because it will immediately open up stuff. I just instead want to just click on Run and run the emulator. because this little this little tool is just as nice. Let's see. There we go. Fire Emblem Sacred Stones. And if we go to the sound room right here, I forgot to turn on a patch, or to set a patch that allows us to maximize the sound room, because now the sound room isn't 100% unlocked. If you do use the sound room to test your songs, then this is probably the most handy dandy thing you can unlock. One of the handy dandy patches you can use to test your music, because otherwise chances are that you won't have unlocked it because you need to hear it in the game first. Alrighty, with that out of the way, let's scroll all the way down. This should be column 18 then, and there it is. So the song itself isn't that terrible. The thing is that the volume is just quite loud. I'm going to click on my start button. As you can see, there was a lot of red appearing here on the screen. That means that the volume is too loud. What we want to do is then close this menu, go to song table, look up the song, and I can immediately show you how to fix your volume. Click on this. I'll get this little window right here, and I'm going to correct this music by like subtracting. What's the highest fucking volume we have? We could just turn everything to 0. We can make the entire song go quiet, and then we'll turn up the rest of the song by saying like, okay, I want 35 volume, which is a good way to balance out the volumes. In my opinion, I do not actually know if this has any drawbacks or whatever. I thought it just worked quite well. Open up the thing and keep going, la la la. You can see that it sometimes takes a little bit to boot up the ROM. And thanks to the lag, I misclicked. Let's see if the audio is fixed now. It's not as loud. There you go. It's not as loud. So a thing with this particular MIDI is that the loop is really nicely done, which means that the song will properly loop. There's also MIDIs where the song will loop and the instruments will go, with every single loop, they will start going more and more out of tune. In that case, that's just a problem you really have to deal with unless you're a musical MIDI expert and you can fix that. There's no real issue or problem with this, just let it keep going. And if you re-listen or if you restart the song, the out of tune issue should be gone. But it's just a thing to keep in mind. All right, so now the song is in there, and technically that means that we have completed the tutorial. There's one more thing I wanted to talk about when going to the song table. If you came here only to insert a MIDI that you found on the internet or in the music repository, then sure, this is the end of the tutorial for you. I will see you in another video, I hope. If you came here for something else, though, if you're interested in inserting a song that has been present in another Fire Emblem game, like Fire Emblem 7, and you want to copy the exact same song and the exact same instrument set from that game into this ROM, there's a handy dandy little button for that. We can go to this little song track editor, and what we'll do is we'll click this button which says import from another GBA game. There's a lot of stuff on the screen. Don't worry, we'll get into this in a bit. If I open this, a directory will open up, and inside that directory you'll have to look for another Fire Emblem Game Boy Advanced ROM. I'm going to get the Fire Emblem the Blazing Sword ROM just for simplicity's sake, and there's all kinds of numbers here. I'm just going to insert a random song out of these songs right here, but what you could do is you could instead open up the ROM, like Fire Emblem 7, open it up in a separate FEBuilder window, and look up the song number, look up this little code right here, and then you will see, okay, for an example, Rise to the Challenge has like code 30 or something, and you can insert that particular song into the ROM itself. I think Rise to the Challenge had like number 29 in the sound room. This is 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. or this is 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. This should be Rise to the Challenge then, out of the back of my head. So we're going to just click on this button and just say, yeah, sure. And what will happen is now FEBuilder took Rise to the Challenge, hopefully, from Fire Emblem 7 and put it inside of our ROM with instrument set and all. So if we quickly go to the soundroom editor and instead change this to 3E7, just listen if it worked out. If we open up the ROM again, and we do like this, and we go all the way down, it should be Rise to the Challenge. It's not Rise to the Challenge. I did a done goof. This is the song of the Blessing of the Divine General of the Divine Generals 1. That's this song. Well, not too bad, but it does. That's a little too bad that it's not Rise to the Challenge, but it does sound exactly like the version that is present in FE7. And with that, I actually covered all of the stuff I wanted to talk about. I hope everything was clear. One last note before we quit: if you wish to insert a song that doesn't loop, you can do that with mid2AGB. You'll have to use a MIDI file for that though. So let me take a look at a MIDI file real quick. Well, I could just grab one I have just lying around randomly somewhere in my downloads folder. Like this song from Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. And this window will open up and it will be like, hey, how do you want to insert this ROM or this MIDI into the ROM? You could just use it with FEBuilder, and you can cut out the leading and trailing outro, the intro and outro, which are usually quiet. I tend to click this, but if you instead wish to import this song without it looping, then I usually use mid2AGB. You can set a volume, and what you can also do is you need to set the .exe file of mid2AGB in your settings, just like with Sappy. But if you already have that, then you can you click select, and the game will import a MIDI into the game, and you'll be able to listen to your song without it looping, which is a very useful thing for things such as sound effects. And that basically covers everything that there is to it. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to smash the thumbs up button. I hope that I was clear in my explanation on every little thing left and right. If I wasn't, then be sure to let me know in the comments what exactly went wrong in your implementation, or if you have any other questions, please let me know. And that basically covers it. If you haven't subscribed yet, I noticed that a lot of people aren't subscribed, but they do watch my videos. It would really help if you decided to subscribe. It would mean a huge boost to my channel, and it would just mean a big deal to me. And yeah, that's basically everything I had to say. Share this video around when you need more help on music and stuff. I hope you learned how to insert music into your ROM, ladies and gentlemen. And yeah, I will catch you all in the next FEBuilder tutorial. I will see you guys all next time, and I hope your music sounds like the true music to your ears that you guys all deserve. Have a great day.